Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the NBL1 show. Thanks to Coles Express. I'm Megan Hustwaite, and what a festival of basketball it's been across the country over the last week. Well, it's been Anzac round where the league, conferences and teams have honoured all that Anzac Day means and encompasses, and we also awarded the Anzac Medal to players that best epitomise the Anzac spirit of endurance, courage and mateship across all of our games. We also had the touring Indonesian national men's team play some of our NBL clubs, which was exciting to see as well. Let's crack into it now and catch up with our experts right around the country. Time to head central now and go over to South Australia and speak to Tristan Prentice, who is our expert on all things SA hoops. Tristan, welcome. It is Anzac round and the action continues, but we're going to start with the women's action first and talk about a bit of a grand final rematch that was very exciting at the weekend.
Yes, it was exciting, Megan, the grand final rematch between the Sturt Sabres, the West Adelaide Bearcats, but it went the way of the Sturt Sabres in the end by quite a convincing margin, actually. They knocked them off by 32 points, did the Sturt Sabres, over the West Adelaide Bearcats, a massive turn-up on last year's grand final. Michaela Williams had a massive double-double with 22 points and 10 rebounds and put the Sabres at a real different level. And have a look at something that happened in the game. She almost had her first three-pointer. Her foot was just on the line, Megan, when it was released. Unfortunately, I got very excited at the time. I thought that she'd finally broken the drought on her first ever attempt from three-point land, and unfortunately it went in, but her foot was on the line, so we still got to wait for Michaela Williams to hit that three. Taylor Brazel had 14 points, 7 rebounds and 2 assists. The Sabres won every single quarter and dished 26 assists and scored 21 points from turnover. Megan, they are the outright favourites now in 2023 in the Women's NBL1 Central.
A huge result there in the grand final rematch. Always an exciting matchup after the decider the year before. Let's move on now because we want to talk about Hannah Stewart. She came up clutch for her side at the weekend.
Oh, and it's not the first time that Stewart has served the Panthers to a win. And in this case, she made some crucial plays and baskets in her 12 points and 3 steals in the final minutes to help close out a very plucky Forestville Eagles. Still no Izzy Borlace for the Forestville Eagles, but Jay Johnson wrestled back the lead midway through the game with a third quarter that resulted in her finishing with 22 points. And 6 of 9 triples, so very efficient from the three-point line. 9 rebounds and 4 assists. We mentioned Holly Forbes last week. She collected another double-double of 13 points and 11 rebounds and 4 assists. But the unsung hero for the South Adelaide Panthers this season, she's always the unsung hero completely. We've known her from the WNBL in the past as well. Jordan Hunter, just difficult to counteract. 13 points, 7 assists, 5 steals and 4 rebounds, with Maddie Freer continuing her great form for the Eagles with 18 points and 10 rebounds. But the South Adelaide Panthers get another win and set up a really good clash this week in the remainder of round 5.
Now, it is still early season, but is it too early to be talking about potential candidates for the Halls Medal?
To be honest, I can't not talk about this candidate for the Halls Medal enough in Molly McKendrick. She marched over the Central District Lions in the Safari Cup for the Tigers. She had 19 points in the first half to finish with 30 points, 11 rebounds and 4 assists, and 2 huge blocks as well. And one of the blocks she unfortunately didn't quite finish the layup, but it was very close. But it would have been the perfect double play, the block and then the finish the layup. Brittany Hernandez came alive in the second half for the Tigers with 18 points, and a little mention to Abby Beach, who hit a career-high 14 points to seal out the cage for the Tigers. Tiana Sears, of course, came from NBL1 West last season. She continued her strong form with 28 points, 17 rebounds. For the Lions, who were consistently in the contest the whole night, but unfortunately couldn't overcome the Tigers in the Safari Cup.
Let's move on to the men's action now. And Brandon Jenkins always produces many highlights, which we see across NBL1 social media, but his highlights were extra special in a very important breakthrough result.
They certainly were. It was Rupert Satwell's first win as coach for this Central District Lions outfit. It's his first win as a coach since 2010, when he coached at the Norwood Flames around the early 2010s. But Brandon Jenkins, as you mentioned, threw down some massive dunks, including a monster alley-oop off the hand of Rupert's son, Kalani Sapwell, of course. He had 29 points to Brandon Jenkins in the Lions' first win, 80 to 104. Kevin Baker, their import, his partner in crime, produced another 20 points and 7 rebounds. It was a really good showing from former Southern District Spartan up there in NBL1 North. Nor Nye clocked an imposing double-double of 15 points and 13 rebounds. And in good news for the Tigers, though, Jet Thompson kept it interesting all night with 19 points and 5 rebounds. And Jim Adow had 19 points and 11 rebounds. And that was with the Tigers side missing Fabian Johnson, who poured in 36 the previous week, Megan. So good work by the Tigers, but unfortunately the Lions just had a little bit too much firepower.
Moving on to a big game at the Lights, and it was a nail-biting 1-point result. Who did it go in favour of?
Well, this time around, it went in favour of the Warriors. And just before we get onto that game, Megan, we need to make special mention last week because we unfortunately didn't quite get the info in time, but it was 150 games to Alex Majorana, who's been a stalwart of the Woodville Warriors for multiple years. Unfortunately, I believe he wasn't actually playing this one, but I'll tell you who was playing. Juwan Stepney of the Woodville Warriors, who actually had a shot to win the game at the Lights in 2022 against the North Adelaide Rockets. His shot went long, and in a turn of events, the North Adelaide Rockets had free throws to win it right at the end of overtime. And unfortunately, their free throw tip-in missed from Coop McCallum, who still finished with 22 points and 9 rebounds. But Juwan Stepney and Devin McGee, who actually finished with 18 points and 10 rebounds, were huge in the finish to that one. And the Warriors remain unbeaten. They got a huge clutch against the team they played in the championship last year on Tuesday in the South Adelaide Panthers, Megan.
So from a winning streak to a winning streak was broken at the weekend.
That's right. If everyone remembers, of course, last year the Forestville Eagles lost 4 times to the South Adelaide Panthers in 2022, including in the finals. And this time around, the Forestville Eagles were making sure that wasn't going to happen again. Andy Simon's team came in and did a really good job on the South Adelaide Panthers, coached by Scott Ninnis, and ended up winning 68 to 69. It was really close in the finish there because Andrew Hawkeye Barton hit a 3 to bring the scores back to very even kill, and came down to a couple of clutch free throws to seal it for the Forestville Eagles. Adam Doyle was clutch late, finishing with 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists and 3 steals. But his side did an incredibly good defensive job on the South Adelaide Panthers. And Daniel Johnson broke out for the new season, one of his side high scores for the season, 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists for DJ. Sets up an incredibly good set of games ahead, Megan, in the NBL1 Central very soon.
No shortage of big names doing big things in NBL1 Central. Thanks for the wrap-up, Tristan. Enjoy the rest of Anzac round in South Australia and a big weekend of action coming up.
No problem at all, Megan. It's been a delight to talk hoops with you this afternoon.
Time to talk all things NBL1 East, and when we do so, we go to the woman in the know, Jacinta Govind, who joins me as she does every week. Welcome, Jacinta. Another massive round for us to dive into.
Yep, thanks for having me back, Megan. Thought I'd bring my play school presenter aesthetic for this episode today with my colourful shirt. But with the good news, I'm going to dive right in with the men to say congratulations to the Penrith Panthers, who won their very first game in the NBL1 East for the 2023 season. So this young team happened to beat Manly Warringah Sea Eagles by a convincing 19 points, with Caleb Fatui Famoa having 21 and 9 and Nae Sakya having 18, 4 and 3.
We always love a bit of good news, and definitely good news at the Panthers this week. Also at the Canberra Gunners. Now, we've got friends on Twitter from the Gunners who, like to keep us abreast with everything that's happening there, and there was plenty happening there at the weekend.
Yes, that is correct. So Twitter is a great meeting place for some of our NBL1 fans and basketball fans alike, and hopefully we can keep it that way. But our Gunners fans so far have been very active this season, and they would have loved this 1-point heartstopper against the Hornsby Ku-ring-gai Spiders. So with James, the shot doctor, Tui, hit a long 2 with 7 seconds to go to secure the win for the Gunners. Now, I get that name from Reece Kay, who is a former Canberra Gunner himself, so I can't take credit for that nickname. But I would like to give a shout out to the Spiders Coach Panda Mandaban, who continue to improve through the competition.
You are a bit of a master of nicknames, Jacinta. So I want to know what your nickname would be for Matt Gray from Maitland. What nickname would you use to describe him?
Matt Gray, that is a very, very good question, because the guy certainly warrants a nickname the way that he's playing at the moment. Perhaps depending on context of the game, you can throw in the phrase "in the grey," I guess. We've already got Purple Haze sideline for Violet Morrow, because I'm sure she's going to keep producing big numbers, but leave it with me. Maybe a Storm, something to do with a Storm, because Storms are great.
Yeah, I like this colour palette. It's very play school, which is on brand for us. But tell us a bit about Matt Gray and what he produced at the weekend.
Yeah, look, I wanted to give him a shout out this weekend in particular. So Matt Gray, he's a 23-year-old originally from Orange, which is out in Western New South Wales. And he's in his second season with the Maitland Mustangs. He did spend a year playing at Drake over in the NCAA. Then he switched to community college for a year before finishing his college career at UC San Diego. Now, he is traditionally more known to play probably a 4 or a 5 role, given he is 6'8". But it's very clear that he's improving his outside shot and his on-ball defense. So given his length and his sound footwork, and he's still got a nice touch under the rim, I would really like to see some NBL team perhaps pick him up as a DP for next season. But I mean, if you need some more evidence for that, all you NBL scouts out there, he did have 44 points on the weekend with 10 rebounds against the Central Coast Crusaders. That includes shooting 67% from the field with 7 from 12 three-pointers. Not quite 7 from 8. I'm sure he could do that one day, but 7 from 12 three-pointers. So lots of stats, and he's definitely an exciting talent in the East and one to watch.
Sounds like a great story, and love that Matt Gray is from Orange as we continue our colour palette on our NBL1 East chat this week. Let's move across to the Women's Conference now, because we've got to talk about the Sea Eagles as they have cemented top spot on the table.
Yes, they have, with a thumping of the Sydney Comets on Friday night. A big 22-point win for the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. So as you said, they have now cemented their spot at the top of the ladder for NBL1 East Women. And the Sea Eagles had 5 players in double figures for this game, including 3 players on 20 points. Leading the way, though, for the Sea Eagles was Kimberly Hodge with 20 points and 20 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 steals. So the Sea Eagles are certainly making the most of this season so far. Probably a team that's probably underperformed a little bit in the last couple seasons. So it's really nice to see that they're coming good in 2023.
Opal's point guards past and present playing in NBL1 this season. One of the future, Steph Reid, we spoke about her earlier in NBL1 North. You and I spoke about Alicia Poto recently playing in the East as well, but a 2-time Olympian lit it up big time at the weekend.
Yep, sure did. It was the Leilani Mitchell show, and this is a game that you've got to watch on the NBL1 website, because she had 40 points against the Sutherland Sharks, which gave the Inner West Bulls another win. So she had 40 points, and she shot pretty well, I think. I think it was about 62%. And her partner, Michaela Domkins, also had 17 points and 14 rebounds in this game. So they're definitely becoming a bit of a 1-2 punch for the Inner West Bulls. And Michaela did say to me on the slide that she can be seen like giggling a little bit during the game, but it wasn't because she was making fun of anyone. She was just like in awe of how many shots Leilani was making, because there was a point where she just couldn't miss. But I do need to give a shout out as well to Maya Perich, who also had 20 points and 7 rebounds for the Inner West Bulls.
Love to hear that, and love Leilani. Shout out to Michaela too on Instagram. Thanks for the assist. They are certainly working very well together at the Bulls. Let's talk about their former team, actually, the Mustangs. They're on a bit of a winning streak of their own.
Correct. It is a former team. So they've gone from country to metro, but the Maitland Mustangs have managed to pull together a very talented roster that are going strength to strength. They're now on a 3-game winning streak after beating the Central Coast Crusaders on Saturday. Now, it was Mia Wolszkiewicz who was awarded the Anzac Medal for the round. She also shot the lights out, so I think that her and Matt Gray must be three-point shooting partners there, considering their percentages on the weekend. But I would have to say Shakira Riley really shut it down. She had 26 points and 9 rebounds with 56% from the field. But something that you don't see on the stat sheet, which was equally as important, was her defense. She was able to limit the touches of Sarah Matthews, which helped the Mustangs limit the Crusaders to just 49 points that game.
Got to be on the WNBL radar, Shaq, for sure, after the season she had at the Pioneers last year and now what she's doing in NBL1 East. Well, colourful shirt, colourful chat. Great job today, Jacinta. Enjoy the weekend action coming up, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Always a treat to head up to the Sunshine State and talk all things NBL1 North with John Guana, who joins us again. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me, Megan. This is one of my favorite times of the week. So good to be back.
Oh, it's my favourite time of the week too. Now, we know it's been Anzac round. It's been magnificently done by NBL1 and the clubs and the conferences right around the nation. And for the first time, we've had Anzac medals on offer, which has been fantastic. And one of your players actually won 3 of them at the weekend.
He won 3 of them, and we've mentioned his name before, and I have a feeling we'll mention it a few times throughout the course of the NBL1 North season. Isaac White won a few medals. His team won a few games. Coming down to Brisbane, playing 3 games and leaving with 3 wins is a massive achievement, and Isaac White was a huge part of that. He had a great weekend, and he topped it off with a 40-piece just on Sunday against Spartans to secure that 3-0 sweep. He's been amazing. He's definitely the early season favorite for MVP. There's a few others that are making their case, and we might get to chat about some of them in a minute too.
Yeah, we absolutely will. But Isaac White had a huge weekend and a few medals around his neck to show for it. Someone else who had a massive stat line at the weekend, I see he's doing school holiday camps, and if I had a tin lid, I'd be sending them there if they're going to play anything like Jason Kadee.
Jason was amazing in the win against Cairns. 42 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He was 13 of 24 from the field. He was 7 of 11 from 3, and he did miss a free throw. So, Jace, we'll get you on that one. But a great player, a great coach. The Rollers had Tanner Krebs back, but Jason Kadee put him on his shoulders and got them that big win. Rollers are looking pretty good, and when Jason's scoring the way that he does, they are really hard to beat. At the moment, Gold Coast looking good, and Kadee, 42 points. Come on, that's massive.
Well, speaking of shoulders, the monkey's off the shoulder for one of our fan favourites, the Pirates. I'm not sure if the Parrot's still on the shoulder, hopefully, but they are back in business. It's what we've been gunning for.
Yeah, that's right. The Pirates were rescued at sea by Chris Cedar. They were down big. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They weren't down big. They were down by a few points, but it came down to the last possession for Southwest. Chris hadn't hit a 3 all game. They put the ball in Lamar Patterson's hands. The double team came. Lamar read it early, kicked it to Chris in the corner, who stepped up confidently, and that's certainly something Chris Cedar isn't short of. Hit his first 3 of the game for the game winner. Pirates are in the win column. Let's see if they can start to build some momentum.
Oh, we are so happy the Pirates are there, and the puns, may they continue for the rest of NBL.
I did promise you one. It wasn't a good one, but I gave you one.
You sure did. The Parrot's off your shoulder too, John. That's for sure.
All right.
Let's finish the men's action with the stat man. He might be the stat man, but he was the highlights man at the weekend.
Yeah, Cody Statman came up for the North Gold Coast Seahawks, and he drained a 3-quarter court shot to beat the first quarter buzzer. It was a big shot, actually, because North Gold Coast was able to come away with a big win over Cairns, 98-90. That's 3 in a row now for the Seahawks, and a lot of that has to do with Cody Statman. He's really come on of late, and the Seahawks are building a bit of momentum. And, man, to do that in front of your home crowd gets everyone into it. They were trailing at the moment, at that point in time. They were able to come back and pick up a big home win for themselves. They're in a pretty good spot at the moment with those 3 consecutive wins.
Well, speaking of 3 consecutive wins, that's how Townsville got on the board for 2023 in terms of the women. What a time it's been for women's basketball in Townsville. An NBL1 title last winter and then, of course, the WNBL championship. But it hasn't been smooth sailing for the reigning champs.
Definitely not smooth sailing, but it couldn't have been any smoother this past weekend. They came into the round looking for their first win of the season. They leave the round with 3 consecutive wins. And again, much like Mackay did on the men's side of things, Townsville swept their 3-game road trip this weekend. Steph Reed, we are running out of things to say about how great she's playing. She took a great NBL1 season into the WNBL season, built off of that and was amazing. And now she comes back into NBL1 North and is playing fantastic basketball. They had 3 tough games, but Steph shone in all of them. They beat Ipswich on Friday night. Then on Saturday night, they had a good win against Red City. The big one, though, was Sunday, and it was a rematch of the grand final series. They go into Logan, and they pick up a really tough 75-68 win in Logan without Michaela Roof, so it's not the full-strength Logan team, we have to say, but still a very difficult place to win and a great way for Townsville to wrap up that 3-game road trip.
Absolutely, and the best point guard in Australia, Steph Reed, playing in NBL1 North.
You're not getting any arguments from me. There's no. I'm 100% behind that movement for sure.
Now, a road trip for Cairns at the weekend, and the Swain train was stopping all stations.
Yeah, I mean, is there a more exciting young player in the country at the moment than Shanice Swain? She is fantastic. Cairns had this 3-game road trip as well. They went 2-1. They'd be happy with that. I mean, to come away with 2 wins after 3 consecutive games is a big accomplishment. You know, like I said, we talked about Mackay and Townsville getting that 3-0 sweep. That doesn't happen all that often. And for Cairns to come down behind Shanice Swain to pick up 2 wins is phenomenal. Over the course of the 3 games, she averaged nearly 25 points a game, about 8 rebounds and over 6 assists. So she's doing a little bit of everything. Obviously carries a big scoring load for the Cairns group, but she's getting other people involved. And she is just an amazing talent to watch. I can't say it enough. If you get an opportunity to see Cairns play live, Shanice Swain is worth the price of admission probably 10 times over. So get out there and watch a Cairns game. She was awesome this weekend, and it's good to see Cairns winning some games.
Absolutely, and if you can't get to an NBL1 North game live, of course you can watch the streams on the app, but she literally gets better every week, every game she plays. Shanice Swain. Now I want to finish with some Sam Bowman action, because you've got a little bit to enlighten us on when it comes to Sam, John.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned it. Watching the games online is amazing, and we get to see every single game. And I did watch a little bit of Rocky, but to see Sam Bowman live this past weekend when Rocky came down to the Sunshine Coast really gave me a great appreciation for her game. She's one of those players that we mentioned when we did the first NBL1 show. She was averaging 20 points and 20 rebounds, and I thought, it's probably just an anomaly. But after watching her play live and seeing her get 20-plus points and 20-plus rebounds against Rip City, and then backing it up with another near 20 and 20 piece against the Phoenix, it was just amazing to see. She's a really, really talented player. Her effort levels are phenomenal. There were so many times in that Rip City game that we covered that she got a defensive rebound and then beat everyone down court to get an easy layup. I mean, those are the kind of things that you love to see from a young talent like that. This is her first semi-professional / professional season to be putting up the numbers that she is, and she's being scouted. I mean, teams are adjusting their defense to try and slow her down, and she's still putting up 20-plus a night, plus nearly 20 rebounds a game. Rockhampton swept the Sunshine Coast double this weekend. They're a really good group. They're really, really interesting for me, Rockhampton, a team to definitely watch out for, and Sam Bowman is a big piece for them.
A huge talent, and just a great reminder what NBL1 can do for players no matter where they are in their journey or their career. So we'll certainly be watching her campaign as it rolls on. Always a treat to catch up with you, John. Thanks for your great insights. Enjoy the weekend action coming up.
Thank you. All the best, Megan, and we'll see you next week.
Look forward to it. Thanks, John. Let's head west now, as we do every week, and talk to our man in the know. His name is Greg Hyde. Great to see you, Greg.
Oh, thanks, Meg. What a fantastic weekend. I'm sure every single experts remarked about Anzac Round. It was fantastic to sort of see the socials throughout the weekend, seeing MVPs across the Anzac Round medal. So, no, absolutely exciting weekend and really excited to get into it.
Done superbly well, Anzac rounds across the country, that's for sure. Now, we've been chatting about Willetton, the Tigers women, a lot over the last few weeks. Whitcomb has continued that W theme, but I want to talk about Alex Sharp because she is in very sharp form.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Meg. She's, I would say, the leading candidate for the MVP currently right now. I mean, you look at the result she had over the weekend in a pretty convincing win over Eastern Suns, who I guess they're a galvanised group. Tim Radulich, their coach, recruited really well, but Willetton got an emphatic win in that regard. You know, they dropped the very first game of the season, and since then, Alex Sharp's performance or her form has been absolutely sensational. Obviously, we spoke about Sammy Whitcomb; she's been incredible. But right now, you know, Alex is third in scoring. You know, in terms of averages, but Sammy Whitcomb leaves, so she'll take that second spot, and she's second in rebounding, and that's incredible figures for a young woman like herself. And certainly, you know, she's a free agent right now. I know she's heavily sought across Australia and the WNBL, but Ryan Petrick would be pleased at looking at her form and seeing her grow throughout this NBL1 season.
Now, scarily enough, they've got an import to come into this team too.
Yeah, exactly right. They've got from my understanding, a European import to come in once their season gets done. And so, yeah, you're looking at what that roster looks like. They lost Amber Gandini over to Gold Coast in the off-season, and I think, you know, it was maybe a little bit of concern of what that looks like. But Desiree Kelly, who is an NBL1 vet, she's obviously continued her form. Samantha Lupke, who they had in the last couple of years, moved over to East Perth in the off-season. But to bring in an import at 4-1, we'll speak about the next three teams that are still currently undefeated, but really positive signs for that Willetton Tigers outfit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Coburn didn't play at the weekend. They remain undefeated, but two teams are alongside them.
Yeah, Mandurah Magic and the Joondalup Wolves continue their rich form. Look, it was always going to be difficult for the teams that they played against. Both the Perth Redbacks and the Bunbury Slammers, who played against Joondalup, have won a game all year, young outfits. But Mandurah Magic had a pretty dominating win against Prairie Lakes Hawks, who were missing Emma Clark, who, as we know, is an absolutely incredible player. But massive shout out, Sarah Toina had a pretty good game, 24 points. But Kaysa Milovic, who's played about 1,000 games, it just got acknowledged as well. Not maybe acknowledged, but yeah, pretty close to it. But she's now the CEO of Mandurah. She's leading the league in assists, and they're undefeated. And so, yeah, look, it's pretty impressive when you look at you know, grassroots sports and where they come from. For me, that's what she represents. You know, I've had the pleasure of speaking to her many of times, and she's an inspirational, not just woman, she's an inspirational athlete and sports person in WA basketball or entirety of Western Australia. So incredible for them. But yeah, three teams remain undefeated. Obviously the Cougars didn't play last round, but in a couple rounds, Joondalup and Coburn will go off. And one of those teams will obviously lose their first game of the season, and that's going to be a really anticipated matchup.
I'm penciling that in the diary, Greg. Can't wait for that one. And
Same.
you're right about Casey. We had her on the show last year ahead of her milestone game, and just a terrific NBL1 story. She is a Wonder Woman in all facets of the game. Now, let's finish the women's action with two players who are big off-season recruits, and they're proving to be boom signings.
Yeah, and mentioned one of those earlier. Samantha Lubke, who has championship pedigree, moved over from the Willetton Tigers to East Perth Eagles, and there was a little bit of not official statement, but last year some rumours that she was battling injuries, and now she's playing incredibly well alongside Madison Torreson, who's one of their other imports. And I also want to mention Maddie Allen, who previous WNBL player for the Perth Lynx and other teams, but was a Rockingham Flames player as well. They're a very intriguing lineup. I'm not going to lie. They've obviously recruited quite well. Those two players, Madison and Samantha Lubke, are averaging both 22 points in the season. Madison Torreson is averaging a double-double. They're at 2-2, so it's not like they're setting the world alight. But certainly for a team, as we all know, you're bringing in 3 new real prominent players. It's actually a very unique and hostile environment that East Perth Eagles play in. It's loud, it's raucous, and so if they can get a little bit of momentum building, it's exciting to see that from an organisation, because they have struggled in the past. But certainly, I think those two individuals would be going up there as some of the 2 best signings in this NBL1 West off-season.
Proving to be the case, that's for sure. Let's move on to the men's action, because Ryan Petrick, he coaches and he wins. He does it in the summer with the Perth Lynx in the WNBL, and he does it with Rocky in the winter, but with the men's program, and they've had a perfect start to the season.
Yeah, look, I'm sort of a little bit bitter here. Prior to the season, Ryan Petrick remarked that they're a better team, and I'm no longer playing, so I sort of was insulted in some way. But no, they are, no pun intended, extinguishing all opposition who they face. And they went again against their traditional rivals in Coburn Cougars on the weekend, or this round, beaten by 21 points. But has to be spoken about Devondrick Walker's form. Last year, he was the MVP, rewarded with a contract with the Brisbane Bullets in that NBL season, and he's improved. He is now still continues to lead the league in scoring, up from 28 points to now 31 points a game. He had a near triple-double on the weekend, or this round, and he's averaging 50 points, 50% from the three-point line, and that is ridiculous, from 58% from the field. And so for him last year, I mean, I would speak to players. I would say I'm the reason why he joined our team last year. I got a random message from him in one day asking for him to play with me for the Flames. He's gotten better, and that's surprising. Want to remark though, Jeremy Combs, who was their off-season signing, Devondrick was the reason why he got there, and I asked him, how did that happen? He said he's never met him. The only way they met was playing NBA 2K throughout their time, and they always joked around saying we should play together. Funnily enough, now Jeremy is with the Rockingham Flames. He leads the league in assists. That's a success of Ryan Petrick's offense that goes through the 4 and 5 man, which we saw Lauren Scherf in the WNBL season. She was the beneficiary of that, right? So pretty crazy. They play Lakeside Lightning this week, and again, I think there's a grand final rematch in a few rounds, but they're potent. Marshall Nelson, Ryan Godfrey, you've got Travis Dernan, Justin Beard. Like, that's 6 names that could be genuine stars on any other team.
Before we move on, Greg, I've got to ask you, is Devondrick Walker the best men's player in NBL1 in this country?
I think so. I marvel at, I think, you're looking at the signing in the off-season with Brisbane. I just don't think it was the perfect fit and role, but I think he's a genuine star. If I was an NBL team, I'd be looking at a guy that would be extremely cheap. Like, he's playing for Rockingham, I'm sure on good money, but compared to normal NBL1 standard contracts, I think that's a guy that they should be looking at. But no doubt, he's getting double teamed, triple teamed at times. I've watched games. His assist numbers went up, his points went up, his efficiency has gone up. He's more sound. So it'll be a hard case to argue that he's not arguably the best NBL1 player, not just in the West, but across Australia for sure.
He slid into your DMs to get to Rocky, so you've got to get a cut of that contract for sure. Let's move on, because I want to talk about winding back the clock. There was a man that did it at the weekend, and it was wonderful to see.
Yeah, Carl Armour, he's an NBL1 SBL veteran, right? He's started his years, I guess, as a 16-year-old with the Willerton Tigers, and then transitioned to play Lakeside, and then played for Mandurah Magic last year, and now has come back to Lakeside. And I think he scored 31 points against Bunbury Slammers, who people would say, well, that's an expected win, but they're a pesky group with some talented players, and for him to get that's games you're expected to win. And
I would like to define it as a must-win game. You drop those games, you don't have those championship credentials. Where I don't see them fit, they're in that mid-category, but they got the second longest winning streak currently right now. 3 games in a row, they're sitting at 3-3, and they have a fantastic test this weekend against the Rockingham Flames to see if they're a genuine team. So, really good to see Cole. We go way back. He had a couple of opportunities with the Sydney Kings way back when he was playing in the NBL. But to see him score 31 points, he would have been chuffed, and I'm sure he would have been enjoying himself immensely.
It was great to see. Can't wait for that big matchup this weekend. Let's finish with the Redbacks because we put a microscope on them last week. How did they come out and play at the weekend?
An emphatic win on at Joondalup Wolves at the Wolf Den. We spoke about it last week. If they want to be regarded as a genuine title threat, championship contender, they need to get those wins, and they did that. I think they limited the Joondalup Wolves to 9 points in the first quarter. Maurice Colton, who was a signing from Joondalup Wolves in the off-season, similar to what happened last week against Eastern Suns, he punished him. He was really good, and I love his game. He's a bit of a tweener, a bit of a utility Swiss Army knife that can do it all. But Tevin Jackson absolutely had a sensational game. They're building some games. Brian Voquel, Brenton Hobbs, 2 guys have come in, are playing consistently, but there's that both sides. The Redbacks are responding to the pressure of being considered as title threats. They're doing that. They're sitting at 3-2. Whereas Joondalup Wolves, are really, really struggling. Like, out of all clubs, I think they've had the greatest turnover in terms of players in the last 2 or 3 years. Pretty disappointing loss, 20 points on their home floor. Their women's team looks incredible. And the other side, their men's team, a lot of question marks around that outfit, and especially with all the signings. And when you make some big name signings like Brian Michaels, Mathiang Mio, Quinton Dove, you're going to get that pressure, and they're not responding. But I believe they'll certainly be there at the business end of the season.
You had the crystal ball out last week, Greg, and a few things came through. So we'll see what comes to fruition this weekend. Always great to catch up. Enjoy the weekend's action. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, mate. If I can get the lotto numbers in that crystal ball, it'll be sensational. But always a pleasure talking to you, Meg.
Well, after a solid debut last week, we catch up with our NBL1 South expert, Matt Hickey. Welcome back for Game 2.
I know, I must have done all right in the opener because I was very glad to get the call back.
You put up some great stats, that's for sure, but nothing compared to that of Jade Melbourne and what she's done in a very mini cameo for the Melbourne Tigers.
Yeah, very brief, but aren't we glad that we've got to see her play against Nunawading on Thursday night? She came out with a triple-double. She played the whole 40 minutes, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals, because why not chuck that on top as well? She shot over 50% from the field, and even more interestingly, she finished with a plus-minus of plus 17. No one else on the team had a plus-minus of over 10 despite winning the game by 17 points over Nunawading. How great to have Jade Melbourne in this competition, even if it is for a brief period.
She is a superstar. She had a triple-double during the WNBL season for the UC Caps. She heads off to Seattle Storm now for her first taste of WNBA, so it's been a pleasure to have her in NBL1, even if it was just for a hot minute. Now, there were highlights aplenty and great scenes, celebratory scenes at the weekend because we had an overtime game and it was incredible. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it was a thriller. We go from a Nunawading loss to a Nunawading victory. So they managed to get the win over Kilsyth at home on Saturday. It was back and forth. The final quarter really halted into a bit of a grind. It was just 10-10 in the final period. Overtime was eventually 10-9. So Kilsyth were the eventual losers, going down 83-82. Nunawading found themselves up by 2 points with time winding down before a massive 3 from Georgia Booth gave the Cobras a 1-point lead. But the Spectres still had some time on the clock. Rachel Antoniadou, who had a massive game, made the assist to Devon Brookshire, who finished off with the winning lap. And what I really enjoyed about it is a lot of the time in these situations you see players or teams tend to go to ISO ball to look for a game winner. On this occasion it was a really well-run set, if I can get it out. There you go. And it resulted in a game-winning basket. So just awesome scenes and an awesome finish.
And I think the commentator called that play because that's what I heard. That's what I heard literally on the highlights. So well done to that caller on predicting that finish. Want to talk about Mount Gambier because they are top of the mountain in both the men's and women's programs. It's been a flawless start to the season.
It's been stunning. What an organisation and what a program that they're running, the Pioneers at the moment. So they're 10-0 combined across the men's and women's division in the MBR1 South. They had wins over Keilor this weekend. And what's really impressive is it isn't as if they've had a draw where they've played a lot of teams who have tended to struggle at the start of the season. They've played Sandringham, Nuttawading, Casey and Frankston, just to name a few. So it's a massive, massive start against really strong opponents. And the other good thing is they've managed to keep plenty of their core from last year, and we saw that both teams had good campaigns last year, and they've added some other pieces on top of that. You look through some of the names with the women, Cassandra Brown, Hayley Reinl, Shelley Kalia, Goodchild. There's just so many great names that are playing for Mount Gambier. On the men's side, you've got Nick Marshall, then they bring in Jacob Lampkin, William Mayfield, just so many great players, and it's really a testament to how they're operating up there. They're absolutely flying, and both teams really have to be in the championship conversation.
Well, Zatina Okuso, fresh off the WNBL championship, comes into that Pioneers women's team as well, which is exciting for them, scary for NBL1 South opponents. Let's continue the discussion around men's NBL1 South action now. I want to talk about Josh Sykes. He is the human highlight reel, and he's continued to prove why he does own that title, Matt.
He certainly does, and I'm interested to see what the response will be across NBL1 social media, because I don't think that in the time of this competition that we've seen a better in-game dunker than Josh Sykes. Night in and night out, this guy manages to fly high, whether it's posted dunks, off alley-oops, anything you want. He had two massive dunks against Ringwood in their clash where Eltham just managed to get over the line. And the interesting part of that game, and people who might not have seen the whole game, he actually got one thrown down on him early, and you could tell throughout the whole contest that he really wanted to get one back, and he got it back in a big, big way. So Josh Sykes, I mean, just an absolute athlete and must-watch basketball whenever you can tune into an Eltham game.
He's a machine. We could dedicate a whole new channel to him on our social media here at NBL1, that's for sure. Moving to Frankston Blues now, because Lucas Barker is hot with a capital H.
He certainly is. Against Diamond Valley, almost did a Jade Melbourne and managed to put together a triple-double. He fell one assist short, which is surprising for those who know Lucas Barker, because normally the 10 assists is what he ticks off first. He had 22 points, 12 rebounds and 9 assists. He's averaging just under 20 points for the season, 5.5 assists, 8 rebounds, shooting the ball at 50% from the field as well. That was a big win for Frankston, and he's been doing it for so long. Of course, we saw him at Dandenong. He's come over to Frankston, and what a brilliant start to the season for the floor general for the Blues.
Almost did a Jade Melbourne. That's the line of the week for me, Matt. You've done very well there. You've almost done a Jade Melbourne too. Great effort by you today. Enjoy the weekend's action, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, a massive basketball week continues with our final games of the Anzac round, and then we head into a new round of weekend action. Don't forget to stay tuned to the NBL1 app for all the info and streaming of games. And of course, stay locked on our socials for all of the big highlights. Enjoy the weekend action coming up, and we'll see you next week on the NBL1 show.